Welcome everyone to the Hellstorm Wargaming podcast number 18.
Sure.
Number 18. Yeah, it is number 18 because it says it on the title.
Oh,
Hope everyone is well. We are
kind of giving some stuff away there.
We are having I'm joined in the studio by my good friend, my good fellow. Hello, Dan.
Hello there.
How are you?
Sound.
You okay? Dan's got a next level microphone set up today. He has a headset on with a microphone clipped to it. Fantastic. So obviously, if you're not watching, you can't see that, but you could watch this podcast live. Did you know we did this? Did you know we record this live, Dan?
I know I'm alive.
You are
live. It is live.
And this podcast is alive.
This podcast is alive.
It is alive, and with the beating heart of the community that joins us live on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook.
The whole 7 of them.
Every Wednesday, every other Wednesday, sometimes on Facebook if it decides to work.
Yeah, if it works.
Because as you may recall, if you're listening to this, if you listened to this a couple of days ago, that Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram all went down. And do you know where we advertise our podcasts?
In fact, everything.
Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And the laptop's not muted, Dan.
Should be.
So we are live. So you can join us live again on a Wednesday evening. We usually put on a couple of days about the podcast a couple of days before what time we're going on. Usually around 6:30 and 7. UK British summertime currently, but basically London time.
BST.
If you would like to support the podcast, you can join in live. You can also join on Twitch and YouTube or Facebook. You can also subscribe on Twitch, which is $4.99 a month. Get some cool emotes. You can also join on YouTube, which is basically the same, but you get more emotes.
For the post too.
Yeah, you can PayPal us, I guess.
Yeah.
Or you can also support us on hellstormwargaming.co.uk, which is our main platform for all the battle reports. It's kind of like Patreon, but it's not.
But it's not.
Because it's better. Because you get more battle reports on there.
You get things, not promises.
Yeah, you get exclusive
things.
access to our exclusive Facebook group, which is just for premium subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
It's 7:30 jib time. It's recorded in front of a live. It's recorded live in front of a live studio audience called Jack, who's upstairs, not listening.
Yeah.
So who's my housemate, who's going to be featuring on the video next week. My housemate.
Some stuff.
Yeah. So my lodger.
It's 7:30 jib time, so that's not real time, is it?
Jib time's a magic time.
Jib's
it's
in
like
limbo.
African time.
Yeah, like jib's literally like Narnia.
It is, yeah.
You walk through a runway and you get into a great snowy land.
So, as I said, I'm joined in the studio by Dan. Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm fine.
Are you ready to do YouTube's favourite show?
Yes, with a twist.
With a twist. A twist of what? A twist of lime?
Twist of
twist
lime.
of orange?
Twist of ruby red.
Ruby red or honeycomb. Let's go into the YouTube favourite show.
It's time for the food review.
Beer review.
Yeah.
It's time for the beer review, Dan.
It's not even real.
I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. We have a brand new segment. It's called Beer Review.
Beer review. Because
Beer review.
It's very, very hot in Sheffield
Sorry,
today.
TJ. We're not doing a food review. We're doing a beer review. So, Dan, pull up the first beer that we will be reviewing
So, we will
today.
have...
So we went out, we found some interesting beers that looked cool. So instead of a snack review, we're going to do beer to this week.
Wild Bill's...
IPA.
IPA. There you go.
So this is an American pale ale, and we're gonna taste it and tell you how good it is or how bad it is. And
Yep.
we're gonna bring a beer review in line with our snack review, where we'll start alternating and doing whatever. So we're gonna drink on stream and hopefully not get banned on Twitch because it's a tasting, it's a review, it doesn't count as getting wasted.
Oh,
on
it looks
stream.
nice.
So Twitch doesn't like you drinking on stream. Well, this isn't drinking on stream. We're just taste testing. So hopefully it'll be all right. So what sort of colour is it, Dan? Through the green screen.
It looks like you've not had a drink for a very long time. That's what it looks like.
1 second, let me grab my drink. Oh, it's like a ruby colour.
It smells nice.
I just realised if I was watching live, I just smelled the microphone instead of the beer.
It does smell very nice.
We are reviewing beer.
So it looks...
Taste testing.
It actually, do you know what it looks like? Cider.
It looks like apple juice. I wouldn't say it looks like cider.
It smells nice.
It's very hoppy. And I told Dan that I was going to say it. That was my number one line.
It's
Dan
it's
doesn't like
ale.
that,
Sorry, it's ale. It's not even beer. It's ale.
It's a pale ale.
Yeah, it's
Not the type of pale you find at college, but
No.
it's a nice pale ale.
It's not bad actually.
Yeah. What would you say? What would you describe the flavour?
Hoppy. It's very hoppy.
You can't say that. That's my line. So it's like a ruby beer. If it tastes very similar to Hobgoblin.
Yeah, it does.
If everyone's ever had Hobgoblin before.
I mean, I'm not an ale drinker, but I can drink this. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's quite light for a
a little bit fizzy.
for a pale ale, isn't it?
Mm.
It's because usually they're quite dry, aren't they? Pale ale.
Yeah.
This isn't too bad.
Mm.
So
So it's
I can sip
it's
it.
ruby, so it's kind of like it's got like what I'd describe as a coppery taste.
Mm.
Yeah, Shaggy says review equals it's ale. It's not that pale, no. It is ruby pale,
Yeah.
which is a bit weird because I've never had a ruby pale.
Now it just looks like we're drinking whiskey.
Well, don't tell everybody. I've just told you we can't drink on Twitch, you idiot.
Yeah, but it's not whiskey.
It's not. It's really not.
It's apple juice.
It's apple juice. So would you buy this in a bar?
No, because I don't drink
Do you
ale.
want to chuck me the bottle so I can give some more insight to it?
Yeah. Shall I crack on open the other one?
I mean, kind of go on. So it's brewed by Marston's Brewery.
Oh no, we'll wait. We'll wait.
It's by Harper's Brewing Co. Extraordinary character, it says. It's 5% volume. That's 5% volume that we've drank. It's nothing to do with alcohol. It's a pale ale biscuity malt flavour reinforced by spicy crystal rye malt.
That's in like
and a
5%.
sweet-bodied mouthfeel.
If you open it, that's the level of sound it makes when you open it.
5%.
Yeah.
5% of the total sound you're allowed to have in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 5% of the sound barrier you're allowed to have it legally.
Exactly. 5%, if not, you're legally allowed to leave. So it's good to have with sticky ribs, sweet chili chicken, or prawn skewers, or pulled pork.
There you go. So it's a condiment for your food.
It's a condiment. It's a sauce. It's a sauce. It's got 5 parts bitter, but 3 parts sweet. I'd say it's quite sweet.
I'll say it's
Sauce.
quite sweet. It's a nice sauce.
It is a very nice sauce.
It's a nice lathering.
Biscuit and spice balance with big hop citrus, fruit aromas.
Yeah, it weren't too bad that. I
Weren't
could
too
probably drink one of those sauces a night.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
better
couldn't-
than drinking ketchup, right?
I couldn't drink like a tub full of mayonnaise.
No.
And it's only 5% of my sound barrier, so you know.
So, you're legally allowed to leave.
Yeah. That's not too bad. It does sound like a fine base.
It's
yeah.
a fine base. I'd definitely have this with sticky ribs.
Yeah.
So
Should we go number 2?
we can open number 2, yeah. And then
This
we
is
can
also
just-
5%
and then
of
we
the
can
sound barrier.
casually drink the sauce whilst we interview. So yeah, it's
So-
quite nice. That, to be fair,
So this next one is a ruby red
that is a
sound
ruby
barrier.
red. So this does taste like a ruby red sound barrier sauce.
So here we got a Medusa ruby red sauce.
Can you imagine if this is the way the channel dies? It's just like we
Watch us getting hammered.
review some sauce on live stream, and you just like you're bad, you can't do that.
Us,
You're like,
us
yeah.
drinking tomato ruby sauce.
If this is the way to go, this is definitely the way to go. You know.
I mean, we best not have too much because we've got to drive in a bit. But right. So
this next
this one
sauce,
smells nice.
This next sauce,
This next red sauce.
ruby red. So wine. I mean, you can have wine as a sauce, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, you cook with red wine. You do a lot of cooking with red wine.
Yeah. I'll take the bottle as well. I mean, the nearly. So this has a lady
Ooh.
on the front. It says
Ooh.
extraordinary character.
This one is actually from Medusa, so that's where the Iron Hands are from, right?
Yeah, so
This
is
is
the
some-
Iron Hands.
This is Iron
ketchup.
Hands juice sauce.
Iron Hands juices. Is that what was left on his Fan 3?
Yeah,
Iron Hands
that's all what's left.
juices
They all just got turned into this sauce.
Yeah. So this is
That's 5%
chocolate
of the
and toffee
chapter.
Sauce.
It's 5% of the chapter in that bottle. Or Legion, sorry.
So chocolate and toffee sauce give away the fresh, fruity aroma and rich red hues dried fruit flavors, and a roasted taste blend to produce a balanced
I'm not going to lie,
bittersweet
it
finish
smells
on
fantastic.
beef. It says a bittersweet finish on beef.
I could see this on beef. It smells fantastic.
It smells really nice. God damn.
It's not a bad taste, actually,
Dan
either.
was pulling a face then. You can definitely taste the fruit
Yeah. I
in
think
the
that's
sauce.
the fruity sauce is actually
A
quite
deep
nice.
mahogany sauce with rich toffee apple and roasted chocolate aromas. You can taste the apple in
Yeah,
there.
you can smell the chocolate too, to be fair.
Ooh. Ooh. But it's like, this looks like very similar colour. It's a little bit more brown
Yeah.
than the other one. The other sauce.
Yeah.
The ketchup. But this is like, it's like it's a darker colour because obviously there's chocolate in there.
Yeah. It's like a... No, I'm not say that. I would just say something about salamanders, but let's not.
Let's just not do that, Dan. We're not on a bridge. So yeah, that's really nice.
It's quite nice,
It's a
that
dark sauce, ABV or alcoholic, liqueur
Liqueurs allowed.
percentage. It's 5% close. It's 5% of a liqueur, which is a sweet which you can have. On
It's
the stream.
5% of the Iron Hands Legion in that bottle, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. It's ruby red sauce. There it is, Medusa backwards. So that's pretty nice, to be fair.
Yeah,
It's got a
I could
nice
drink that
lady
one.
on the front with some snakes. It's pretty cool.
It's very Warhammer related, right? So, because you can get a Medusa in the Daughters of Cain.
You can.
There you go. That's what it's.
Is
Daughters of Cain
Medusa a
juice.
type of tank?
Yeah, I believe it
Shall we
is.
have a look?
Yeah, Medusa is
have a
like it's like a mortar tank.
It is, isn't it? I
Yeah.
knew it. That's what we're talking about. That's what it tastes
So,
like. It tastes
funnily
like
enough,
chocolate and golden apple.
the actual Legion that used to use a lot of Medusas is the Iron Hands.
Exactly, because they're siege warriors.
And their planet is called
Obviously.
Medusa, right?
It's basically a Baneblade. It's that Baneblade thing, look.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
It's basically a Baneblade.
It's not a Baneblade. It's
Not a Baneblade, a Basilisk.
Yeah. It's a marine basilisk,
Exactly.
but it's about 80 quid.
Yeah. And for now, until next week, when all
please
the
no.
prices go up. Hashtag GW price hike.
Not this Medusa though.
Not this Medusa.
That one was
Medusa
what?
will never leave you unless it's 15 minutes late. And then
Was
it's
that
legally allowed to
129
leave.
for that?
It was. They were very reasonably priced, to be fair.
Yeah.
So they were from a local supermarket. One second, let me get comfy.
They were from a local supermarket.
A
but
local supermarket.
a local, very well-known supermarket.
When
but-
you're posh, you can pronounce it oldie.
Yeah.
They were £1.20 and 99p each.
Yeah.
I'd
Cool.
get smashed on those sort cooking sauces. We need to start talking about cooking because they're not got very good ad rates. So these cooking mortgages.
So, yeah. So you could drink these sauces while watching Love Island.
Yes, you could. Or watching the Hellstorm Wargaming podcast live.
Yeah. Yeah.
On a Wednesday. If you want to get smashed on cooking sauces on a Wednesday.
I mean, yeah, I think we only be 5% of the sound barrier and the Legion. Probably you need a few more, but
So out of our ranking system, which is from S to F.
this is definitely the best we've done. I'm not gonna lie.
I've realised there's lots of messages on YouTube. If you swear on YouTube, it automatically blocks it. So I apologise, guys, because I miss it. So
Is everyone just going insane?
Wooden Spoon Wargaming £5 bet says it tastes like weak piss. Jamie Miller says, "OF, don't drink American booze. It's like piss." So they both say it's like piss, and you are wrong. It's quite full of flavour. I mean, it's kind of like the aftertaste is very much like a cheap beer, but the initial flavour and the smell, hot damn, it's nice. It's tasty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I quite like it actually.
Well, what would you give it? What would you rank on the ranking system of from saucy to F in the chart?
It's definitely an F.
It's not an F, no.
No.
I don't think it's an S.
It's not an F. It's not special.
I'd,
It's not grade.
swim in it.
Special class.
It's
Yeah.
not like a Cupra Oxo, is it?
Maybe like.
That's an S. Cupra
Maybe
Oxo,
like. Well, we've got A to B then, haven't we? Really.
basically.
I'll probably go in terms of what it is and what it tastes like. It's definitely better than curry cheese.
It's definitely better than curry cheese.
It's better than those things Georgie gave us.
Pulperinos.
Pulperinos, because they taste like ass.
They did taste like ass, didn't they?
Toby weren't sure about the last one, so I'm not too sure about that.
I really like them.
I mean, they
Pretzel
sounded quite
candies
cool.
From Jamie.
I reckon.
They're not shapes, so they're not Aussie
No.
shapes. Them
I
shapes
reckon
are, like,
at
banging.
least
Strong
the
B.
lowest a B.
A strong B.
Yeah, maybe even an A. You know. I think
maybe,
A actually.
Maybe that's because it's beer. I mean sauce. Oh God! Oh no! What have I done?
Demonetized. Yeah, I reckon an A actually.
You reckon an
because
A?
it's the best thing we've done. I think.
This is the best one.
Yeah. No, maybe not. Smack 'em all at best, but
I should
That were
probably
old school.
look into the terms and conditions of our contract with Twitch and find out whether reviewing sauce is allowed, because I didn't really think about it until we went live, and then I remembered.
oh.
Oh dear.
Do you want
Because-
to put the lids on the sauce so we don't lose them?
No, I'll be alright. The problem was there's a lot of there were a lot of streamers that were basically turning the stream on, getting absolutely blasted on sauce,
So that's that plan gone then.
and then they basically like started like blacklisting it. Well,
Although
it's quite tasty. I definitely enjoy it. Like if I was going out with my mates for a beer, I'd
Oh.
enjoy this sauce with my meal that I'd have with it.
Time for the food.
I keep saying it. I won't say it's like the best beer I've ever had. I mean sauce.
no,
So
it's not the
biased.
best. I mean, I don't drink IPA, so
Yeah, it's
but
tasty though. It's nice.
It's better than
For the price.
not drinking it. Yeah,
For the price, it's really nice.
from this very well-known shopping centre
Oldie.
from
So-
Aldi.
So there you go. That was the snack review.
Can we delete Neil out of chat?
Yeah, if you want. That was the snack review. A bit different. Something else. If you enjoyed it, then let us know, because we will look into doing
More sauce
more sauce.
because
Raw
they have.
sauce.
There's a fine selection of other sauces.
It's a fine and large
Plenty of
selection.
sauces.
So,
You know, if you start slurring words now, we're definitely getting demonetized.
so yeah, let's go into the actual podcast. We've got like 20 minutes before Zach joins. So if you are listening back, you can skip this bit if you want to, but whatever. You don't have
You've
to.
got 20 minutes of us
20 minutes.
talking rubbish.
So I'm just going to double check the agenda. Yeah.
As opposed to not when we're not talking rubbish, right?
Yeah. So, Dan,
Excuse me. Yes.
how are you?
I'm alright.
You okay?
Yep. A bit gassy now, but yeah.
You
I'm
having a
alright.
great time?
I'm having a great time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell me what you've been up to? in the hobby for
Well,
the past few weeks?
I wrote you a lovely status on Facebook, which
You
is
did
quite
write
cool.
me a lovely status about WhatsApp being broken. Thanks for that.
Yeah, because clearly you've nerfed it.
Do you want to tell me what you've been doing hobby-wise in the past
So
month?
hobby-wise, not very much to be fair. We went to your first tournament, AOS tournament, this weekend just gone. Apart from that, I've been kind of busy with other stuff. I've not really done much hobby. I've been a bit of a loner.
You not painted 21 eels?
Not fully painted 21 eels. I've
put
I've
colour on.
airbrushed them and put colour on them. Yeah, I've not painted them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've done 24 eels actually.
24 eels, obviously.
Yeah, so I've done been doing some AOS hobbying. Yeah, I don't think I've really done much hobby wise. I've not really played much Warhammer
No.
since the last time I was on. We've had our event, which was really good.
We did have Hellstorm doubles, which is our first doubles event. It's a 1-day, 3-round event this weekend. We had 22 teams turn up
22,
in the
yeah.
end.
Yep.
We had a couple
Including
of dropouts
Team
last minute.
Hellstorm.
Including Team Hellstorm and Team Subscribe to Premium,
Yeah.
which is Scott and one of our friends.
Yeah.
Scott and Alex, sorry. I meant to say Alex and one of our friends.
Yeah.
There we go. So,
You've had
yes,
too much of that sauce already.
raw sauce and not ketchup.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was this week, and that was Saturday, and that went really well. 3 rounds. We had custom missions, custom-ish missions. We had basically
Yeah, we had a
missions
few
with
stratagems which were
some stratagems, and
Cool
we had like kill more, hold more, rather than just chapter approved missions.
yeah. So it was chapter approved missions. Sorry, not we're chapter approved missions.
approved
Yeah,
missions,
3
yeah.
chapter approved missions with an ITC twist to it,
Yeah,
but wasn't ITC.
no, it
So-
wasn't ITC registered. It was just
Hold more, kill more.
ITC style scoring in there.
It was the the second part. It was like the bonus points, wasn't it? The second part of the
Yeah,
ITC
exactly.
scoring.
So it basically people get extra points for killing stuff and holding stuff as well.
Review chili sauces next.
Oh, it could
I'm
do.
up for that. I think I've got an
I nearly
intolerance to
did get some
sauce.
chili snacks earlier, didn't I? And you were just like,
Yeah.
"Nah, man, I'm not about that. I'm not about that today. Not
Yeah,
ready.
it's too hot. It's too hot to be chili
Too
sauce.
hot.
and
It is quite
it's
hot.
sweaty now.
Yeah, we got all the lights on in the
Mhm.
hot studio. But yeah, so we ran that. We had, 22 teams.
Mhm.
We actually gave out lots of prizes. We had
Yeah,
prizes
quite
for last
quite
place, which is
cash.
a two player starter set for AOS, obviously.
Yeah.
Classic banter joke, that isn't it?
Classic tournament.
Come last at a 40k event, you win some Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, vice versa.
Yeah.
It was the same at the thingy one, wasn't it? As well.
And then we had first, second, third. And we also had players, player, and best painted.
Mm-hmm.
We actually decided in the end to give the largest prize to players.
Yeah.
I realised on the certificate I put players, player.
Yeah, you did.
But I should have put players.
No,
players,
but that makes sense
because it's a team.
The play. Yeah, they're a team, but they've got a player's player
Oh well.
between them. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So we gave the largest prize to the players player, and that was to Team Clueless. We'd have some pictures of the teams who won going up probably.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I've not brought the
Dan's been
SD card.
Dan's been slacking, not giving the pictures.
So I can upload them to Facebook myself if you want.
but we
I
need
can
to
do it
edit them.
myself, but they do need editing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we actually took our green screen with us,
We
which
did,
Dan
yeah,
is
and
playing with right now.
We've got a few people who took some pictures that we're going to have some fun with.
Yeah, so we've got some pictures in front of green screens that we're going to be sharing online for people to edit and have fun with. But yeah,
I think
overall,
there was already one of me, isn't there?
there's one of you already, yeah. Overall, it was a huge success.
I enjoyed it.
Yes. So everyone had a great time. We did put out a feedback form. We got generally positive reviews.
Yeah.
We had a couple of comments about some things about the rules pack being a little bit confusing, so we know how to make that more clear. And we also had feedback about the type of terrain, because we had lots and lots of ruins.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a lot of area terrain, which promoted bunker play.
Yeah.
Which people weren't keen on.
Which I get.
Yeah,
But that's what terrain we had.
yeah, that's what terrain we had. So at least we know that.
Yeah.
We know what to do. So
Yeah,
it's made the
because
rules
we're
pack
kind of
clearer.
geared up for a proper ITC event, so all this terrain is for that effectively.
Yeah,
innit?
so when we're trying to run a let's say fun event, it's a bit
it's
different.
not as
Dynamic,
Yeah.
but it promoted bad play, basically.
It promoted gamey play, let's say.
It promoted gaming play, which people didn't want. So at least we know.
Mm-hmm.
We know that for next time. So that was Saturday. And then Sunday, we went to an AOS event at Imps Gaming.
We did, yes. I'm taking this off because my ears are getting really sweaty.
Yeah.
I'll hold that up there.
There you go.
There
That'll
we
be
go.
fine. So we went to Imps Gaming, which is in Lincoln. Me and you went, didn't we? And then Toby was there, along with a couple of other dudes.
Some of the crew, or the AOS crew.
So I played in my first AOS event, which...
How did you find it? I know you said it was different.
I lost 2 games and won 1.
Yeah, but you did play 2 of the people who were actually quite good at the game.
Yeah, so AOS is a weird one. I think, as I was saying to you in the car on the way home, I think AOS data sheets and going in as a list, like units aren't that bad. It's all the stacks that you can do.
But I think,
it's all the stacking that gets confusing.
Yeah, it's because the thing is you can't stack the same ability from the same source.
No, it's not that. It's the amount of rules that can be stacked on top of each other.
Yeah. So
I was playing
minus
against,
1 to hit, minus 2 to hit.
I was playing against Toby, and he just had like this unit that had a 2-up rerolling save that ignored one of my rend, and then if I did a wound, it healed the wound, and if he rolled a save, I did a mortal wound back.
Yeah.
And then if I kill the model, he can get back up, and he's just like, what? I hit him with like 60 attacks from a unit into his sequitors, which are the Stormcast dudes. Sequitors, which is the Stormcast dudes with the hammers and the shields. I lost 5 models. He gained 2.
Mm-hmm.
So,
weird. It's usually how it works.
It's a strange game, but it was fun. I won player's player at that one, best player, favorite player.
Yep.
I won a combat gauge, which I think is a bit of a rubbish prize for player's player, but I won player's player.
Yeah.
You know, I did.
You got a little trophy, didn't you?
No.
Did you get a trophy?
I just got
the combat gauge. I quite like that combat gauge. It's cool.
I just won this metal combat gauge, which is from GW, which is
good.
probably going to be
They're
about 40 quid
then.
next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a rubbish prize.
I mean,
although the old one actually had a little tag on it, so you could swing it about.
So you could wear it like a necklace.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
An AOS combat gauge.
I'll even though you don't want it.
Even though we have Hellstorm Wappy Sticks. Oh, it's green screened. You can't see it. Hellstorm Wappy Sticks coming soon.
Have I got the red ones?
The red ones are put away.
Oh, okay.
So if you can see this invisibleness in between my fingers, you can see the chat box behind my head wheezing this.
There you go.
Wow, that's cool ass. I'm going to keep this around for podcast. But this is a measuring stick essentially, but you can't see it because it's been green screened out. How is that remotely funny? It's funny for the people playing that sort of army. But for me, it wasn't super fun. But It's just one. It's a tournament army, and I didn't really have a tournament.
I mean,
army.
I'm not going to lie. I played Louis, which is Toby's brother, and he practically gave up by the end of my turn 1.
Wow.
Because I killed all his stuff with my eels.
Nice. But Toby went first against me, so he got to do all his buffs
all
and
his
stuff.
first, yeah.
It's kind of one of those. It's literally like 4K. If you don't go first, you lose.
Not necessarily, because some armies play for the second turn.
Yeah.
But
against,
I know what you mean.
That
I get
army,
it. Yeah. You get it, if you get it buffs, so especially when you don't really have rend as well.
Yeah. I have weight of dice. I don't have rend.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, so that was that. That was fun. So I lost 2, won 1. I enjoyed it. I'm going to try it again. I'm not out of it yet. Obviously,
you've played one tournament.
I'm new to the game. I've only played like 7 games now. So, so how did you find it, Dan?
Well, it was my first run out with all the eels. Cause I've only used 6 before, and then obviously things happen with GW, and then I bought myself some more. Yeah, they're dumb.
Eels are dumb.
Yeah. So I won 2 games, lost 1. I basically lost the first game on dice rolls,
right?
Because I'd got to the objective and it will end up burning it. I needed to roll a 3 and a 2 to win the game, and I rolled 2 2s.
Brilliant.
So that was just that playing Slanesh. But I was on the front foot all the time. It's just he managed to be able to summon behind. See, summoning's stupid as well. Because it doesn't count towards your points.
Yeah, he just summoned it.
So he just summoned units onto the objectives, and I'm like, yeah I've won. Oh, for God's sake. So then the second game I played Louis, which were not fun for him. But to be fair, he rolled terrible for his... it's a very similar list to Toby's, but his ballistas, I think he did 5 wounds with 4 ballistas against eels.
Nice.
So, and then they just cleaned up.
Yeah, and then you played Sylvaneth, didn't you?
And then I played Sylvaneth, which
looked like a slog.
Yeah, I won that by 10 kill points.
Nice.
Because of the way the missions played and how the woods
it was like
are and stuff.
It was like points and then kills.
So it was a major win, minor win, and a loss. Major loss.
Fair. Nice. So that was our weekend.
Yep.
This week we've not actually not had a chance to do any filming.
No, I've been busy with other stuff.
Yeah. So full release train for videos starts next week because we're basically having a slow week because we've had the event. We have just announced 2 more events, as you might have seen on Facebook. They are on the lowdown for now, but we have a 1-day event on the 7th of September, which is an ITC RTT 1750 mono faction, and then we have a double ITC, big ITC weekend. 64-man major once again. Yep. 2,000 points. No restrictions. On the 12th and 13th of October. And that'll be the last event of the year.
I think that one might be a sellout straight away because people love that stuff.
Yeah, people do love
no restrictions
ITC.
And 2K.
So our double weekend event will be on sale on the 5th of August.
Yep.
From 9 a.m. for premium subscribers. And then the 1-day event will probably be on sale likely the end of this month. So if you're interested, then make sure you keep in touch with that.
Expect a lot of...
Moontunid says, I have now vacation this year. Shall I come? You should definitely come, dude.
Yes, you should.
Should be a good laugh.
I'd expect all the big hitters there, so a lot of famous people there across the circuit. So it'd be good to meet everybody else as well.
Yeah. So it should be a good laugh. So that's, once again, 1-day ITC 1750 mono faction on the 7th of September.
Yep.
And then 2-day, 2,000 points, no holds barred. 12th and 13th of October. Boom. So there you go. So I think it's like 7:05 now. So what I'm going to do
is try and get hold of Zach.
Try and get hold of Zach, yeah. And you're going to entertain the chat.
Okay. Yeah, please don't swear or drink any kind of sauce while you're live.
So obviously, me and Zach have me and you have met already, Zach. But we are joined tonight with Dan. It was going to be Toby, but Toby couldn't make it tonight. So
hey Dan,
how's it going?
So, are you okay? What have you been up to this week? We'll catch up with you. What have you been doing? Any 40k hobby this week, Zach? Or anything like that?
Well, it depends on what you think of as being hobby, I guess. Because for me, most of my hobby time is currently moving boxes. We've got
fantastic.
300 odd boxes of terrain and all sorts of bits and bobs for the LGT that we're currently moving from where it's been stored the last few months to a new storage unit. So I've not been playing much 40k, but I've been seeing a lot of.
You've just been playing around with it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
The dust of the plastic.
Yeah.
Basically.
It turns out that like MDF dust, once it gets like into your thumbprints enough, actually stops fingerprint recognizers on mobile phones working. So I've discovered
fantastic.
that it's quite hard to unlock my cell phone while doing this job.
Oh, wicked. Just become one with the MDF.
Yeah, exactly. One with terrain.
Yeah. So as you've seen, we've got a few questions we're going to run through, but if anyone's listening live, if you do have any burning questions, then do pop them through and we'll try and get them in as well. So first question, Zach, is how did you actually start the LGT? Obviously, it is the second biggest 40k event in the world, the biggest in Europe. How did it come about?
Yeah, I think like most 40k players that played in their youth, I had a down period through my latter teenage years and early 20s.
Oh, yeah.
And
when parties and girls start.
Yeah, pretty much. So what happened was when I stopped playing was at the end of third edition. Games Workshop were big in the event scene. We still had the massive games days in Birmingham. We had I think a couple of 100-person event in London every year. In the old Earls Court Arena.
Mm-hmm.
So they were huge, and there were lots of local events to go to down here in London. And when I got back into the hobby, I started looking for them because I've always been a competitive player, and I couldn't find any. There were a couple of small club ones in the suburbs, but there was nothing really major and sort of south of Stockport. And in fact, because I was playing in the end of the 6th and 7th, Stockport was the only place to go for an event of over about 30 people because
they had the capacity in the venue, right?
That's it, yeah.
So basically, it was set up as an event that I wanted to exist so that I could attend. And in our first year, we had, I think, 88 players or something.
Nice.
So even in our first year, it was already too big for me to run and play in. So I was sort of a victim of the event's success in that I've never actually managed to play in the event I created because I wanted to play in a big London event. So, and then after year one, I started traveling a bit more to play 40k and became friends with some of the convention organizers from the States. So after going to a few of them, I wanted to replicate what I was seeing over there, and that's basically how we grew from being an 80-odd player event in year one to what we are now.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's been really good. Obviously, how long has the LGT been running now?
This year will be our 4th year, so we're still actually quite young.
Oh, amazing. That's really good. So 88-man year one, and now you're looking at how many players this year?
This year, as of a couple of days ago, we surpassed the record we set last year. So we're currently on, I think, 443 for 40k and 850 odd for the convention as a whole. So, my target this year was, I think, 300 when I sat down to do the maths on if I was going to run the event again, because obviously we had some problems last year. And so I'm super, super pleased that we managed to not just get above the target, but also, have actually grown by about
completely smashed it by the sounds of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome, dude.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are some people listening that have been thinking about coming that haven't bought a ticket yet or waiting to see if they're going to end up with other plans. So if there's a 60 odd of those people still floating about in the next 9 weeks or whatever it is left to buy a ticket, we might make it to 500, which would be an amazing milestone for the community, I think, because outside of Las Vegas, that's never happened before anywhere. So
yeah, exactly. So as I said, it's like the biggest event in Europe, but only second to the big LVO. So where do you see the LGT in 5 years? Would you like to overtake the LVO? Is that the big goal, or is it kind of grow it or just to generally improve?
This year has very much been about just fixing the problems from last year. So, once we've nailed all that down, which from my perspective, I believe we have done already, and now we just need to show everyone. So without trying to get too ahead of myself and thinking about, what I would like to see more generally is, I've always, had an ongoing joke with Reese that, even though they've got a head start on us, we're going to be the first people to run 1,000 person event. Now, I think they sold 800 tickets in 4 days this year, so I think they might have us beat there.
Yeah.
But the plan is to still keep growing the event. We'll be gathering quite a lot of feedback from attendees this year to see if they want to see the event go to 3 days and probably 8 rounds. If they do, then that's great. We'll do it. If they don't, then we can look into adding other things to make the convention grow without requiring people to take Friday off work. So this year's very much a case of showing people we solved the problems from last year, and then gathering feedback from the attendees to see what they wanted in future years.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it going. It's basically being led by the feedback we get each year. That will inform what our goals are for the next years.
So obviously, a sideways thing was in the UK, 3 days event, 3 day events aren't that common. Where in the US, everyone seems to be doing 3 day events.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see that come into the UK as well, and hopefully, to be honest, I'd like 3 day events. To be honest, start on a Friday, finish on a Sunday, or even a Monday if needed. To be honest, because it's all about those ITC points, right?
I think,
well, for some it is.
Yeah.
I think over that, it's like actually having a full weekend there, not just, we'll drive there Saturday morning, play some games, really tired, don't do anything, get up, play some games Sunday, and then go home. At least you've got that buffer in between to meet people, exactly. And have a chat with people.
Yeah. Have I come back in, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back in. So what's the biggest challenge in growing the event?
Yeah, so you were just saying, how much you wanted to start seeing more three-day events, and I completely agree. It gives you a lot more scope to make the event better. The biggest problem we have, I think, is twofold. One is just purely economic, in that every year it's a struggle to make the event viable, just because if you look at LVO, what they call basket costs. So it's basically like the average attendee online basket for Adepticon, Nova, LVO. They're all not just higher than ours, but they're in the region of 3 to 4 times higher. So the ability to basically run longer for them is easier because people are spending more money. Now, we got a lot of feedback last year that people didn't want to pay the £50 for the 2.5 days. So dropped the ticket price down this year to 40, which is more standard. But
obviously, it was. You ready, Zach? Can you hear us properly now? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. So, obviously, last year it was well documented what was wrong, which was the terrain. You've had a lot of issue and comments about that. If you don't mind, would you tell us what actually happened with that, and what steps have you taken to make it better this year and prevent all the hoo-ha?
That was very political.
Yeah. So the problem last year, now that I've sort of been thinking more carefully about exactly what went wrong rather than just everything, which was the stock answer at the time, was basically misunderstanding the impact that scale was going to have on the making of the. In hindsight, it was this problem we have with scale, which was having decided to make all the terrain so that we could have some stuff that actually worked for 8th edition that was sort of functionally designed.
Sure.
We had to build it, right? Because nothing we had and nothing available to buy at that time was suitable. So let me just use the example of one of the big L shapes we have in the middle of the board. So just one big L shape required 2 20 by 20 centimeter squares cut, one sort of lower step cut and one bigger step cut, them to be glued together and then to have a rock texture applied to the outside. So just one piece like that is like cutting it down from a big board down to scale for each of the pieces, and then cutting each of the 4 pieces. And then, we've got 600 odd of those to do. And the same process basically applied for each and every piece of terrain. So 10 pieces of terrain, each piece was basically like a 4 or 5 step process to make, times 300 odd tables. So that basically added up to like 10,000 individual actions. So when I was planning like yeah, exactly. When I was planning like how much time to do it, I didn't appreciate that like if I got something that I'd estimated it to take being a 30-second step wrong, so it was a 45-second step, well, there's no problem. It's only 15 seconds extra. But when you do 15 seconds extra on 100,000 individual steps, that works out as like two full working days. And we basically got to the point where we built it all and then didn't quite have enough time to paint it all. It wasn't 100% unpainted. We'd base coated about a third of it. But we ran out of time to paint it all. We wanted to finish painting it and dry brush it. And because we ran out of time, we weren't able to pack it up effectively as well, which meant that more of it got damaged in transit than we would normally expect. So 100%, this is completely like my mistake. I misplanned for everything, but this year we basically took that into account, and instead of working out our timeline of being okay, terrain has to be ready 2 days before the event. It's going to take 10 days, 100 hours, 10 days of 10 hours. So let's start. I think in your defense as well, it's tough to try and went through the same process, but it was like, it's going to take 40 days of work. So let's start right now, and it will be ready 200 days in advance of the event, because we're just starting from where we are now rather than working backwards from the day it needs to be ready. So it's just it was just an error in planning. And unfortunately it had a big impact on not so much the attendees, because a lot of the attendees, came away at the end and said, it really bothered me when I started playing, but by the end of game 5, I appreciate that it looked bad, but it worked really well. But it was a big problem for the brand of the event, because it was, 400 people there were annoyed but could still play, whereas 10,000 people in Battle Lost Souls who had no idea about
the problem is the internet,
pictures.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, obviously, I'm not trying to shirk any of the responsibility for that, because it's 100% my fault. But the number of people that have expressed support for the event, was quite humbling, because I'm active on the tournament scene. I go out as a player as well as a tournament organizer, and people consistently say, never had better terrain to play a game of 8th edition, even though it didn't look good at all. So this year
super functional, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this year we've taken the functionality up a notch as well, because all the ruins now have extra levels of flooring in, so that you can they're not just line of sight blockers, but you can also stand units in them. We've put bases on all of them so that you can get your cover saves. And as everyone that's seen the pictures knows, we outsource the design and manufacture of that to TT Combat. And so they look amazing, as well as being, in my mind, the best tables to play on for 8th edition, but they also look really great now. So that you can actually, have a game of 40k that doesn't end on turn 1 when you get shot off the board, because now you can't hide half your army.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for opening up and coming out about that, obviously, and accepting responsibility, because I know the problem is that at the minute is, if it's not everybody obviously, but obviously if people go, you're going to the LGT, the first line from a lot of people is, are they going to have terrain this year, or are you going to go play on the foam and stuff like that? So at least now, hopefully, maybe through this podcast or from what you've put out yourself on Facebook and stuff like that people see that you have done a lot to try and improve the terrain, because obviously the terrain is the one thing that the tournament organizer provides to make a game, as much as it is a competitive event, more immersive for the player. Because at the end of the day, we are just rolling dice and trying to compete, but it is a game at the end of the day that's set in a universe that people want to see. I think
that's the problem, is people don't see the amount of work that goes into it behind the scenes. They only see on face value from pictures and whatnot. Whereas, we know ourselves by doing the the tournament, how much it takes just to do 24 tables or whatever.
Exactly.
36
So
tables.
We did. There was a team of 8 of us doing 15 tables or something. It took us 2 weekends to do. So where can people see pictures of the new terrain, Zach?
So the best place to go to see pictures of the terrain in real, or not in real life, in use, would be our Facebook page. So that's London Grand Tournament, or Facebook/London Grand Tournament. So there's pictures there, both of the terrain that we have in our storage unit, as well as pictures of it being used at the London Open Part 1, which we did as a free promo event back in March, I think it was, at Bad Moon Cafe.
Sure.
So if people want to see pictures, they can go there. In the event pack itself, we have pictures of all the terrain, as well as terrain maps, so people can see how big it is, because it has the dimensions on there, as well as how to set up a table, because you can also buy a set for yourself from TT Combat. They've obviously designed it for us, but they've put it on sale for anyone that wants to buy a table of cheap and functional terrain.
Nice. Good for practicing.
That's good,
yeah, exactly. And not just for practicing, but other tournament organizers, it's the most effective way to get a full table of terrain that guaranteed works for 8th edition. It fits into a nice small box, so you can store it well. So for practicing for clubs, for smaller events that are just getting started, it's a great terrain pack that TT Combat really did well on. And if anyone wants to see it in real life, there are 16 sets of it down at Bad Moon Cafe. So if you're a short train ride away from London Bridge or Borough, you can go down there for the day and play some 40k with some good line of sight blocking terrain.
Well, there you go. If you've been worried about the terrain for LGT, I think, Zach, you've just shut everybody up.
I really want to go down to the Bad Moon Cafe as well.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. Hopefully people, are coming away from this year's event saying that the terrain was one of the best things about it, because my goal year on year is to try to make the worst thing about last year the best thing about the following year. So
nice.
That's been my goal, and hopefully we'll see what people have to say after the event.
Yeah. What other improvements have you looked to into this year's LGT? Obviously, you are in a different venue now. So what sort of things have you changed from last year, except for the terrain, obviously? What other things will you be doing?
Well, we've changed pretty much everything that goes on behind the scenes. So we've got a whole new venue, and this venue is much less restrictive on our supply chain than the last one was. The last one was very much like we had to use all of their supply chain. So this year we've got a whole new supply chain, everything from tables that are the right size rather than too big, which is one of the main reasons of having overcrowding issues last year. We've got new caterers, which solves a lot of the issues we had last year with cost and diversity of the menu, as well as service times. So it's like the bits and bobs that go on behind the scenes that take weeks for me to negotiate and formalize contractually with our suppliers have been the main thing I've been spending my time on this year. In terms of what we've changed that players will experience more on the gaming table itself. The thing I've been most excited about is our bracketing system for awarding prizes. So while the pairings and stuff will still be done on the standard sort of Swiss system that everyone that plays ITC is familiar with, what we're doing for prizes, because it's so big, is basically everyone going into game 5 has the potential to come away with a trophy. And the way we're doing that is if you have, say, won 3 games, lost 2 games, you are then in the bracket for prizes for people who have won 3 games. If you've won 4 games and drawn a game, you are in the bracket for people that have won four games. So obviously the overall winner will be the person with 5 wins and high scores for those 5 wins. But for people with 4 wins, whatever, they'll be in that respective bracket. So they'll have a position overall. So say they've got 4 wins, they'll probably be, say, 80th overall. And then out of everyone with 4 wins or 3 wins or whatever it is, they may be ranked first, in which case they get first prize for their bracket. And there's that system for everything. So for people with 1 win, if you have 0 wins, you're going into game 5, you've lost all 4 games, you can still win a prize by winning your last game. The only one that we obviously can't do top first place for is people with 0 wins, because that doesn't make much sense. So obviously 0 wins bracket is the wooden spoon.
There can be a lot of winners, but not everyone can be a winner.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's wicked, because a lot of times you find that with 2-day or multiple day events, is people drop out if they lose a game because they know they can't win.
I was literally just about to say that is a good way of getting around that.
So everyone's got something to play for, even if you've lost, which is a fantastic way to do it.
Yeah, so the way I kind of explain it to people is like, it doesn't matter at all what's happened in the other 4 games. It's what happens in your final game that matters. And it's really to encourage people, as you said, to stick around for day 2, but also to stick around for the award ceremony, which is something that I really missed. Last year we had some issues with packing away on time, so we had to cut the award ceremony short. Whereas in our second year, we had a good, nice one where, we had 150 odd people hanging around watching the awards. So this year we've got, I think, 500 tiered seats at the venue. And a stage we've booked in, so we can do a proper awards ceremony. So it's really a case of like, for me, is rounding out the convention feel rather than it just being a large 40K event. It's very much, we want to make it feel as special as possible, and having people hang around for the award ceremony is a big part of that. So, if you've won 2 games and you're in it to win it for the bracket number 2, then it's worth hanging around rather than just being like, oh, well, I've done less than average, so I'm going home early, so it's...
Yeah, exactly.
It's about creating that convention feel.
Making sure you complete the event for everyone else. So it's nothing worse than winning 5 games and then only 3 people turning up for the awards because everyone else has gone home.
Because even it was at LVO, like 100 people dropped or something stupid like that, or like 60 people had dropped.
Yeah, lots and lots of people dropped after each game, which is terrible.
Which is, when you've paid that much money for a ticket and, for the venue, for the hotel and stuff like that, it's a lot of money just to be going, I don't want to bother not playing anymore. And then to ruin somebody else's experience, like you say, is... Yeah, forget that. I mean, I'll always play if I'm not going to win anything, because it's just to play in at the end of the day.
It's a game.
It's a hobby. It's a game.
So, how many different game systems are you running at the LGT this year?
So we've got slightly few. No, I had to reel them off. I think there's 8 systems, but for 40K, for example, we have. So we have the 2 open events, which are the practice events, one that we run in March and one that we're running in August, which are exactly the same as the GT, but just for people to practice in, basically. So the next one of those is beginning of August, £30 for a 2-day 5-man event. Then on the weekend itself, for 40K, we've got doubles, invitational, narrative, GT. Then for Sigma, we've got doubles and... GT, Blood Bowl's got 3 events. So, just in 3 systems there, we've got, 9 events. So
that's crazy.
It's a lot of work, and it's easier for some systems than others. So, for example, Blood Bowl is, the players that play Blood Bowl know that the tournament scene is very hot in the rules, so you need less refs, so one guy can run 2 events at the same time, sort of thing. So, 40K, complete other end of the spectrum. So, we can only really run events that we have staff for. So, we've got the guys from the Hampshire Hammerers running the narrative event, doing a great job over there. And then me and my team running the GT. So last year I sort of took a step back from actually running the GT and just was focusing more on the convention more generally. This year I've stepped back into head judge role. So we'll have more tighter control over making sure that side of things goes well, because that was some feedback we got last year as well. We've got a new judging protocol as well this year. So we're flying over the ETC head judge to help us from the rules perspectives. We've got a couple of other experienced judges that will be walking around continuously. And then we're also working with player refs like at all levels of tables. So not just at the high level where you have these expert players, but players that know the rules really well, but maybe are playing armies that aren't going to be performing very well. That are available to answer non-subjective rules questions. So if you want to say, what's the rule for this, and it doesn't require them to make a judgment call, then we have a number of player refs that will be marked on the tables as well for you to ask rules questions rather than judgment calls for.
How many official judges do you have for the main 40k event? Because obviously, like 430, was it 440 players? How many official judges have you got?
I think we're up to 10 at the moment. I have to check because we put out in our last newsletter, like if anyone wanted to volunteer, and we had some feedback from that. So off the top of my head, I think we've got 4 like full-time walking around. That's the only thing they're focused on. And then I think 6 of these player judges. But the great thing about 8th is really because of the way line of sight works, you get a lot less need for independent refs than you did in the 7th. So you don't have scattered templates. You don't need to know what the nearest model is. You don't need to argue about, can I see 25% or 50% or whatever of a model. So what I found is that the majority of ref calls nowadays are either because people don't know their own rules and can't bother to look them up, or it's something like, how does this rule from one of a million facts work? Because like if you're playing Chaos, for example, at the moment, I think you need 4 source books and 6 facts or something. So
something ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got James and I, who are both on the play testing teams and know the facts well and can answer those sort of questions. We've got very experienced impartial refs that can do, where needed, the judgment calls where there's no rule to govern exactly how the game should be played. And then we've got the player refs for stuff that don't need impartiality. So sort of 3 tiers of reffing to try to make it go as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's good that you're actually putting the time into play test the rules as well. To make those judgment calls straight away, rather than having to flick through the books and go, oh no, this is what it says. But then, like you say, it's the FAQ and all the other source books and stuff as well.
Yeah, who better to ask than a playtester?
Can Zach actually hear me?
No, don't say that. That puts way too much pressure on us. But the point really for me is about consistency. So it's no one's perfect. We're not playing. Anyone that's watched the Premiership or last night's soccer semi-finals knows that referees get things wrong. But the key is to get things wrong. If you're going to get them wrong consistently, so that you don't put one player at an unfair disadvantage. So we've got basically a walkie-talkie system, so that if a judgment call is made that is subjective, of like, okay, this is how this needs to get ruled because it's not in a fact. One player might be annoyed about that, but at least they won't get a judge on another table ruling it the opposite direction, because when those situations arise, we can radio each other and say, I've just had this issue and this is how I've ruled it. And then everyone else that faces the same issue can rule it in the same way. So that should hopefully get around some consistency issues.
Sure. So in regards to the actual event, we've got some questions about what maybe might be hitting the top of these brackets that you've set out. So first of all, do you have any list building restrictions for the event, or is it straight up anything goes? Yes.
So the key one, we have some minor restrictions around like WYSIWYG and that sort of stuff, but that's nothing that people won't be familiar with. The key one that's going to impact the meta is we don't allow beta data slips. And that's because they don't go, they come straight from the writers to a PDF. They're not part of an official publication. They don't go through the same points review as a codex does. So they're not as well balanced. And anyone that's familiar with the meta at the moment will know that there's one data slate that we're seeing everywhere that is far too cheap.
It's shiny and got a big gun.
It has 2 big guns, and there's 3 of them, and they're called Caladiuses or Calidus or whatever they are. They're very, very bad.
Mikey's ordered 3.
But the point is they have great rules, and unfortunately they're way too cheap. So they're not the cause for this restriction. They're just a symptom of why we have the restriction in place, which is beta data slates don't go through the same points review as codexes do. So that's the only real restriction. What will that mean? It will mean that there's just a couple of top players that are playing those lists, but they also have other lists as well. So, for example, Conrad, who players that are familiar or active on the scene at the moment, who won the first ever LGT, was one of the first players to be using these tanks. He read that this is a restriction in the LGT pack. He's now started playing an Eldar Highlander style list with Guardians and stuff in. So I'm sure we'll see some.
Was it second?
So go ahead.
Heat 2, Heat 1, or third?
He
actually on gaming he won Heat 1, but he came third because of the sports membership votes.
Sure.
And he won Norwich last weekend, I think it was, and no, not Norwich, Romford, and Greetings from the Warp. I think he came second at the weekend before. So the top players will always be playing interesting stuff. So what will win Heat 1? Well, I'm going to say Knights with Guard. Unfortunately, one, because there's so many people that probably be playing it that probably stacks the odds in its favor. The other thing is like
flyers are a lot stronger in ITC format than they are in ETC format these days.
They're also great on our terrain because they can get around some of our line of sight blocking terrain more easily than Knights can. I'm also tempted to say Chaos. Because as everyone knows, we have the Knights Codex about to drop. Chaos have some great flexibility in the list, and flexibility is key for getting around our terrain. Again, it's like, okay, who am I fighting? And now I can plan how to fight them because I know in advance what the tables look like. So Chaos are great for that. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we don't see, a couple of Knights with a Chaos, flexible battalion sort of in backup. Win. So that would be my guess for tier 1. The top 15 or so players will be a mix of Chaos and Imperial and Eldar. And then from there on down, it's always a mixture of medium players with strong lists and good players with bad lists. So for Heat, for the first runner-up bracket, the people with 4 wins, I would expect to see probably another top-tier list win. Who just somebody, so say if Malik plays Conrad in game 5, then and one of them loses, then they're going to drop to the 4 wins bracket.
Basically, matchup dependent or dice dependent, right? Yeah.
And they probably both had top tier lists. So I think top 2 tiers will be won by on meta lists, as just discussed. And then we're going to see some interesting stuff. So I think, probably 3 wins, you'll start seeing stuff that's a bit wonky. Somebody builds a cool off meta list that can win half its games, and in this situation, won 3 of its games by massive margins. Maybe something like boy spam, or something that's maybe a bit more unique and one-sided. A list that either wins or loses games based on something like who goes first or whatever. And then, I guess once you get down to tiers, people with 1 win or 2 wins, you basically have the opposite thing, which is most of those people are just taking the armies they love to play with. So you might end up with, an Eldar list that's only got 1 win because the guy wants to play with an Avatar and a I don't know. Storm Guardian. No, Storm Guardians are good. And a Wraith Knight. Yeah, somebody has bought 3 Wraith Knights and some D cannons, and he's only got 1 win because they're terrible. So I think we will see a mix everywhere apart from the top 2 tiers, and I think the tier 3 will be the most interesting from a sort of very varied list design sort of perspective.
Yeah. Well, with rumours of the Space Marine Codex dropping anytime soon, obviously everyone seems to be talking. Obviously, they had some new units kind of like leaked / previewed yesterday.
A new Primaris Lieutenant.
Phobos
armor as well, I think, by the looks of it.
Maybe with a new Codex or new supplement, maybe they could be hitting high. I hope so, because, Space Marines being the first love with my G-Man.
You're getting a Codex anyway, you're getting the Blood Raven stuff, aren't you? So, no red booty.
Yeah, exactly. So it should be interesting. As I said, why did you decide to change from? Because was it ETC last year the scoring, and then you moved to ITC.
Yeah, last year was ETC style missions, but of our own devising. So it was Maelstrom and Eternal War, but combinations that were different to the ETC. And the reason we had different combinations was to basically create different. Basically, armies that would score higher, so that we would get a better split between the 450 odd people we had playing. To have people scoring different, a variety of different game outcomes, so that we could have a variety of tiebreak scores. So, for example, people that played will notice that I think it was in game 4 there was a game where you would win and you'd have like 80 points or something. And the whole point of having 80 points is like in game 4, it's going to be one of your hardest games. So we needed to have a big tiebreaker so that we would get game 5s to be equally paired, which is when the strongest people obviously play each other. So, so that's how we were last year. We've decided to move away from that. Sort of multiple small reasons that were added up to quite an obvious shift in momentum, and that was more and more ITC standard events being played in the UK, which obviously indicates some demand there. We trialed a bunch of missions at in the run up to launch or finalizing the pack, and then polled our previous attendees and attendees of the London Open, the first one, about what they wanted, and after playing the missions, what their thoughts were. We had a strong bias towards ITC missions, both before and then after people played on them. That also was consistent afterwards, so people didn't change their mind after playing. And then the third reason is mostly about sort of, if it's a word, internationality, which is as we grow, we become more relevant for global 40K. Sure. So having missions that people will be relatively familiar with everywhere in the world becomes more important. So, for example, 10,000 odd active ITC players at the moment. People that play those missions as their primary format, compared to maybe 500 ETC players. There's 200 odd actual players, and then maybe double that in terms of people that are trying to get into teams. So it's just more relevant now that it's so global than it was when we started up 3.5-4 years ago, when ITC was only really played by maybe 1,000 people in America, and now it's the standard. So they're the main 3 reasons, and then we thought we could put our own stamp on it in terms of how we do the prizes rather than how we do the missions.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when we ran a few events. Our first event was ETC, and then we trialled our second event as ITC, and we overall got better feedback. Yeah, I think the main complaint was people didn't like cards. Like Maelstrom doesn't create a super competitive way of playing.
The cards are too swingy, in my opinion, for a tournament, because you could have a really, really good draw in one game, then have a really terrible one the next game, and it doesn't really reflect on the play as such.
Yeah.
It was, I've had a really terrible round of cards, I've now lost the game.
Yeah.
Even if you were in a strong position at that point. Whereas I think ITC is a lot more balanced, because you're picking the missions you can do with your army or against your opponent. So I think it's a good move in that sense.
The thing with me personally as a gamer, I love ETC standard. I think it's a great way to play. I love cards. I appreciate that most of the attendees don't though. So it's not an event that I'm running what I would like to play in. It's an event that I want other people to want to play in. So what I think it's the comparison is best is like, okay, imagine playing ITC, but you got your secondaries randomized rather than picking them, where it immediately becomes less balanced. So if we went to, say, a Maelstrom deck of 60 odd cards, you draw 3 a turn. Okay, so instead of playing with 60 cards, how about you pick 24 of them and then you draw 3 a turn? Because that way you're still, you're still playing with a deck of cards, but you're picking from ones you can already achieve. So there are definitely ways you could use cards to create balanced games, but I don't think the standard way to use them is quite right at the moment for large competitive events.
Yeah, I know there was a new supplement in the White Dwarf this month for card-based missions, where you essentially choose 18, I think, of the 30 odd in the deck.
You build your own deck, and it gives you that opportunity at least to get some cards out you can't do and whatnot. I mean, they do that anyway, don't they? In the Games Workshop missions now.
Yeah,
they allow you to drop 6.
Where you drop 6.
Yeah.
But this was like building an event of 18, so then maybe with that, if the ETC do pick that up, might bring it back into, let's say, relevancy.
Yeah.
But again, we love the ITC because it is a balanced, simple system. Yeah. You don't need to buy extra cards to play, and it's super easy to work in BCP as well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say having played both, I think I prefer I don't mind playing either, but I think I prefer the ITC because again I can pick a mission for my missions for my army that I was playing at the time.
So how many players are you going to be going up to how many space have you got left for either the main 40k GT or like overall some of the events? Because obviously you've sold out the Horus Heresy event so far. How close are you selling out to the other events, Zach?
It's a hard one to balance because if some events aren't selling as well, our historics events are like 100 under where they're supposed to be, so we can swing some extra space towards events that have extra demand. So, for example, yesterday I added 20 extra tickets or whatever to Heresy. Now, obviously, the cutoff for that is when we need to finalize the things that require planning. So, ordering the final batch of mats. We can't order sci-fi mats if they're going to be used for Age of Sigmar or whatever. So, at a maximum, it will be all events effectively sold out by end of July because that's when we have to finalize all of those orders. That being said, if we get the rush of last minute purchases that we're expecting, it may be that events sell out sooner rather than that. So, I was saying at the beginning of this, we're at 443, I think it is for the GT, and I'm trying to hit 500. So if we hit 500, I'll cap it there. And some of the other events are already basically at those things, but they're probably events that you haven't heard of because they're about pushing Victorian tanks around and that sort of stuff.
It's varied, right? Yeah. So.
It's so varied. Yeah, I mean, the historics, I just mentioned, I think we have 8 different historic systems being run. So that in my head, I think of them all as like one game system, but actually it's like 8 different systems. Yeah. Star Wars Legion, we've got the second highest profile Legion event in the world. They were tied second highest because there's like the World Championships, and then there's two ways you can qualify for the World Championships. There's an American qualifier and there's a European qualifier. We're running the European qualifier, and the winner of our Legion event gets a free flight to the States to play in the World Cup. So
we've just started playing that as well.
Shall we go and compete?
Shall we go complete the Legion?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if we do a Legion podcast, the technology might not be as fickle as the 40k. The warp's clearly been interfering with us this time around.
The warp is fickle, isn't it? And all that. So you're running the London Open in August. So what date is that? What ticket sales doing like that? Is there still space for people to come along?
Yeah, so the London Open, the first one was had a hard cap because we were running it at Badboon Cafe, which is one of the nicest venues in the world, but only has so much space. The London Open Part 2 is being run the same weekend as ETC to basically give everyone who didn't get into the team, which is every player in the country, but bar 9 people, a big 2-day event to come to. So that's being held at the Shepherd's Bush Dark Sphere, which has a space for 100 players. It's on the 10th and 11th of August. So August is typically when people take holidays. So I don't expect it to be as popular as, say, it would be if we were running it on the 13th and 14th and 15th of September, like the LGT. But I think we're at like 34 or something, probably get to like 50, 55-ish. I think that will probably hit. So it's still a fairly well attended tournament. For us, it's a great opportunity to show off the terrain again, to practice with the new bracketing system for the prizes, and for the community that want to attend, it's a great opportunity to dial in their lists, because it's 2 weeks before list submission, so chances are there won't be any major releases in those 2 weeks, and you can get 5 great practice games against high quality opponents using 100% LGT terrain, so you can practice on the boards you'll actually be playing on at the event proper.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. Actually, that like a warm up event. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's wicked. So I think that is about all of the questions that we had originally. We do have one that it's kind of like a backtrack question. It kind of got skipped off during the intermission, let's call it. So what I will say, if anyone
the warp storm.
Yeah, I'm going to ask this question in a second. But if anyone's got any questions who's watching live, then do drop them in the chat now. We'll try and cover them. But what's one piece of advice you would give to people looking into getting into tournament organising with all the experience you have yourself, Zach?
Good question. So first thing would be to work out what type of event you want to run, because there are very different organizational issues depending on if you're running 20 to 30 man club event in the place you normally meet in on Monday nights, and you're just going to run a weekend event with the same tables and most of the same guys you normally play with. That's a different set of problems to if you're running a 50 or 100 man event in a gaming facility like Darksphere or Element Games or somewhere, or Firestorm. That's a different set of problems again. And then the third set of problems are if you're running what I would say is like a branded event. So an event that is only the event, where you're going to have to find the venue, get the terrain sorted, get the mats, do all that sort of stuff. So the starting advice would be identify what you want to do, because there's loads of competition for, say, at the moment anyway, people running 50-odd man events in established gaming centers. There's so many of those happening right now that if you just want to run another one of those, chances are it probably won't be hugely successful, because even established ones aren't selling out at the moment because there's just too many of them. But if you want to run a small club event for you and your mates to just play some structured stuff, then that's great. So my experience is obviously with the third type. Fortunately now, we have this resource of mats and terrain. So if you want to run that style of event, get in contact with me, because we can help you overcome some of the financial issues we had, where we were having to invest heavily in mats each year and terrain. So we can sort of lend a helping hand to tournament organisers that way. There's a tournament organiser Facebook group for tournament organisers in the UK to share advice, so definitely join that if you're not already a member. That's UK.
I recently joined in there, and obviously there's lots of well-known tournament organising there to give advice, but also there's the tournament organisers calendar, so people stop overbooking each other, which is always good.
Yeah, you guys have suffered recently from that. But the third, probably most final piece of advice would be what's your USP? What's your unique selling point for your event? What makes the event that you would like to run special enough that people are going to travel to attend? Because you can run a successful event with your local community, but if your ambitions are to run the best event, then the chances are you're going to have a lot of demand for it. And the guys at SNN, however you say that, SN Plus, the Gibraltar guys, SN Battle Reports, have done this perfectly. People travel from all across the world to attend their events because there's a completely unique element to it. And it doesn't matter what that is, because there's so many 40k players at the moment that so long as your event has something special about it, there'll be enough people that find that thing reason enough to attend. So that would be my advice for people that applies to club level events, gaming store level events, and branded events. It's what's going to make your event special, and then to make sure people know that that's why it's special.
Sure. Well, there you go. That's it. Brilliant advice there.
First-hand advice from a pro at it.
Yeah, because there is a massive saturation of players, but there's also people know that, and there's also a saturation of events these days. There is probably a major event nearly every weekend at the minute.
There probably is one every weekend, easily.
Yeah, I mean, like, so this weekend alone, my buddy was like, "Are you playing this weekend?" I was like, "Actually, no, I can't go. I've got a ticket. Do you want it?" He goes, No, I'm already going. I was like, "But you're not on the list." He goes, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I'm going to Brighton." He goes, "I'm going to Bristol." I was like, "But somebody else is going to the Isle of Man." There's 3 events in one weekend that are all like attendable, like all well run, all friendly, good crowds of people. And that's great, but each of these events, I think one of them sold out, but the other 2 probably only at 50%. So, it's good for everyone, but for the people that are, outlaying major financial risk to put on these events, it can be a major problem. So, I think what we'll see, particularly the last 12 months, there's been some your own event, Ricky's events up north. There's been some great new events popping up.
Yeah.
But I think what we'll see is the committed TOs will consistently put on not just events that are getting better each time, but are also consistently good. They'll stay around, and people that put on events 1 or 2 times, they'll fade away. So I think we're probably at not peak oil right now, but peak 40K. And maybe in 12 months' time, we'll have fewer events again, but they'll be larger. That would be my guess in terms of where the scene is going at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because everyone's a lot of people that I've noticed and I've spoken to are all like, "Oh, I can run an event. I can get 50 people in there paying 30 odd quid a ticket. It's a big money spinner." But realistically, tournaments aren't a money spinner. It's a weekend of getting people in the same place, but they are very, very expensive when it comes down to it. So, but yeah, some people might make a quick buck, but realistically, it's the people who are consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it's in terms of advice for those people. It's like, if you want to make money running events, obviously 40K is not the place to be, because if you just look at table hire fees, it's that's already over 25% of a standard face value price for a ticket. So on top of that, a mat costs the same price as the whole ticket that you're going to make. So it's just it's not running. Yeah. So I mean, if those are people listening, then run an event at a gaming store, because they're by far the most profitable. If you want to run a branded event and make money, go to America, because you can charge $200 for a weekend of gaming there, and if you try and do that in England, you get laughed at. So I think it's a different kettle of fish in the States, where your costs are lower because there's bigger space and more of a supply chain, and your revenues are higher because you can charge more for your tickets. So for sure, it's a viable full-time business. Otherwise, you wouldn't have Frontline Gaming doing it as a business. But in the UK, I think it's a bit of a pipe dream to realize we don't do anything this for any other reason than wanting the events to be good and be in existence.
It's definitely more of a community act at the minute in the UK.
So
that's why we do it. We like getting everyone in the same place, having a great time. So one question that has come up is what's going to be happening with stream coverage this year. So
stream coverage this year. We've got an idea. So that will be announced probably in the next few weeks. The main issue we had this year is because of having to basically fund stuff this year that we thought we'd sorted out last year. Things like, terrain we invested in last year didn't go well. That all got binned. We had to buy a load of new terrain this year. So financially, the event this year is sort of had to take a year step back, which just meant we had to cut costs for a lot of things like streaming. So instead of just being able to pay Warhammer TV to come down again, we've had to talk to some other guys. So that will be discussed more publicly in due course. So watch this space, because the discussions we at the moment are a bit premature. But watch this space.
Yeah, well, there you go. So I think that is all the questions. So, Zach, I want to say a massive thank you for coming on. It's been a real pleasure, even after all of the issues. Obviously, people watching live can see Dan has come close to me because he realised that only one microphone was working so Zach could hear us.
I was actually having a full-on conversation with you, Zach, and you couldn't hear me. So I was like,
I could hear you in the background, so I was just smiling and nodding as if I was on him.
Maybe we'll get a camera on it next time, and that'll be much better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
No, really appreciate it. So,
anytime, mate. Anytime.
So, so if you want to check out the LGT, obviously that is the I'm going to get this wrong now. 13th, 14th, 15th of September. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, I got that right. Fantastic. Almost pro.
We've got the invitational and doubles on the 13th. So if you want to come along and you can only get away on Friday afternoon, come play in the doubles. We can pair you up with somebody else looking for a partner. The GT itself is on the 14th and 15th, and the final of the invitational is also on the 14th. If you've never attended a tournament before, so have loads of our attendees, so don't let that put you off. If you can't get across the globe, but you're listening to this, with the invitational is going to have a lot of good build up to it. We're in the process of putting together a lot of the hype sort of marketing material for that. So that's going to be on our Facebook shortly. So make sure you're following along our Facebook, which is London Grand Tournament. And if you are thinking about attending, maybe sign up to our mailing list, which is you can do via our website, which is lgtpresents.co.uk.
Well, fantastic. There you go. So this is only the beginning, really, the big promo run on the run up. So yeah, we'll be seeing you there. So
heard all this.
Yeah, looking forward to it, guys.
So thank you very much, Zach, and I will probably be speaking to you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
See you later, mate. So there you go, guys. That was Zach of the LGT. So I apologise for all the hiccups, the intermissions, the terribleness of what happened there. That was a bit.
I forgot my stool.
You forgot your stool. So we did have a bit of a cock up.
Right, I've got a stool.
But yeah, so we've fixed it now.
Hello.
We've fixed it now, and we got there in the end. So I do appreciate everyone sticking around for that. But yeah, interesting stuff, right, Dan?
Yeah, it's,
whilst I fix the camera.
It's actually nice to hear from, the main man. I think because sometimes, especially with this kind of thing, obviously that Warhammer's a worldwide kind of game where you only see people on social media or you only see them on YouTubes, and it's actually nice to hear someone in actual real life talking about what's going on behind the scenes, and it kind of sheds light on it where obviously to be fair to Zach, I didn't think he had to defend himself, but he did do quite well with the terrain part. He didn't have to do that, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously with the LGT being in such a big spotlight because it is such a large event, for that to happen, and then Zach to come on a live podcast, even with all the difficulties, to say, look, I cocked up, I've fixed it, it's all going to be better now.
The other thing as well is because we've now got first hand with it as well, with how hard it is to run a tournament. Yeah, and we didn't struggle because we got there, and the terrain was all right and stuff. But the first 2 months leading up to that, we were in tangles, weren't we? Because nothing was done. Yeah. Then we had to panic do and you should do everything.
You would have wanted to see me. I was a monster.
Yeah,
I was a monster.
Neil nearly died.
Neil did nearly die. He choked on spray cans.
So all sympathy to it. After going through that what we did, I think to do as many tables as he's done, I think people need to look at that picture rather than oh my god, that looks terrible. Yeah.
So obviously they had the mats. They've got a brand new venue. Yeah. They've got brand new terrain, all done by a terrain company, TT Combat. Obviously being quite a big name in the community.
I've got a feeling that it's going to be cost a lot of money as well. So I'd lay off, guys.
So yeah, there you go. So I think that's probably it. If you watch this live, appreciate you sticking out and sticking through the technical issues we had with our podcasting software.
That's going to annoy people.
Thanks, Dan. With the finished cut, hopefully it does sound okay. So without further ado, anything else to add, Dan, before we go?
Can we play Mordu?
No, we can play Mordu, yeah. So, guys, thank you very much for listening. This has been our first interview. We got there in the end. Our first interview with Zach Becker of the London Grand Tournament. So, massive thank you to him for coming on and sharing his thoughts.
Next, we'll have Stormzy next.
Stormzy is next, yeah. If you want to support the podcast, if you're listening back on the podcast on iTunes, Spotify or SoundCloud, you can join us live on a Wednesday evening. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. It's who knows. You'll have to watch to find out. If you want to financially support the podcast, you can support on Twitch with a subscription. You can support on YouTube with Join, or you can support on Hellstorm Wargaming.co.uk, become a premium member.
Please subscribe.
Get extra battle reports. $3.99 a month, get into the Facebook group, and generally have a great time as part of the Hellstorm Premium crew. So, without further ado, thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Mikey.
Thank you, chat. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you again.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you again to Zach for coming with us, coming on to talk to us, and thank you for bearing with us. And I think we will hopefully see you or talk to you. Or maybe you'll hear us.
We'll probably see you in maybe LGT. Who knows?
We might see you at the LGT, and we'll see you in the next one.
Or anywhere else.
Bye-bye.
Or you too.